first met Keith when he first arrived. We were still in the Iron Triangle, and he was assigned to my platoon as our new platoon medic, because our existing platoon medic, his name is Ken Ripka, he became the senior company medic. So Ken introduced him to all of us, and he had the kind of personality that you know right away. This is a nice guy, and I like talking to him. And since I was the RTO, I was always in the platoon CP with the medic. So he and I became, pretty well acquainted. And it was the last few days of the operation in the Iron Triangle, and then, we went back to base camp and resupplied and then headed out to D-Zone. And we were there, I guess we helicoptered in early afternoon, and then we took off in a company formation, in a column formation. It was a whole company, A company. And late that afternoon, we ran right into a VC base camp, and we ended up in a big firefight. And there was a couple of guys that were killed right away. My platoon was the lead platoon at that time, and we just stopped to switch platoons. The first platoon would step off to the side of the trail, and then the rest of the company would file by, and then we'd fill in and take up the rear. This is a standard practice, so that you don't wear out all your troops, because it's really a tough job to being up on the point, because you got to cut the trail for the rest of the company. Okay. So every so many hours, you would switch platoons. So we'd rotate platoons around to the back of the company, and we just got rotated around to the back, and we started to move out again, and then all of a sudden I heard gunfire, and there was a halt. We were all halted, and had to get down in the brush and stay low, and then I was listening on the radio. I could hear the second platoon RTO calling for help, said they needed men up front really bad. We had wounded. So then, the company commander, he gave the orders for the second, third, and the fourth platoon to pull off to the right, and have the first platoon, which was at the back of the company, go off to the left, so that we could get this VC base camp into a crossfire. So as we went off to the left, we had to go down a hill and cross a creek, and we came across this VC trail that was leading up the hill, or a second hill, and we saw that there was a gate and a brush pile, like a fence. They were fencing off an area, and they were using brush to create a barrier. And on the opposite side of this barrier, on the uphill side, was a punji stake field. There was hundreds of punji stakes out there. So we turned abreast of one another, and we advanced up over the top of the brush pile and up to the top of the hill. And when we got up there, there was a VC hut right at the top. We were right into the base camp, and we were starting to lay down a base of fire when the company commander called and told us to hold our fire, and we needed the medic, Campbell. So somebody came over to lead him to where they needed him, while we stood there waiting for orders. And then, I think there was an airstrike. Then we got the orders to move down the hill and form a night defensive perimeter, because we had one guy with a sucking chest wound, and we had to get him out of there that night. And so when we got the perimeter formed up, the helicopter came in, and we evacuated the wounded guy. And we brought the bodies back of the dead, and there was another wounded guy. We spent the night in this perimeter. The next morning, there was another airstrike brought in, and I got wounded that next morning. And then I got hit in the chest with a piece of shrapnel. It wasn't anything serious. It was, just a scar mostly. And we had to move to a different position. So they needed help to carry these two dead guys up to the top of the hill, where we were going to open the top of the hill up and get the dead out of there and some more wounded guys. So we had to make a clearing, and I helped carry Campbell and I helped carry the bodies up to the top of the hill, and we set up another perimeter up there, and then we started digging foxholes. And I had my foxhole all dug, and one of the sergeants came by, and he says, "I want you to go over to the CP and help the medic with the dead and the wounded over there." They put 4 guys in my position. So I go over to help Campbell, and I was helping him. One of the guys had been shot, many times, and his intestines had fallen out. And he and I put the intestines back in this guy's stomach, and bandaged him up. And his name was Spitler. So while the medic and I were doing that together, the VC snuck in really close to our position. They detonated a Claymore mine, and those 4 guys that took my foxhole, all 4 of them ended up dead. Killed all 4 of them. So, then there was another firefight on. And then, let's see, that lasted about, maybe a half hour or so. And we collected the rest of the bodies and everything, and had the helicopters come in and evacuate all those guys. And then we packed up and we pulled out of there, and we headed to, we're joined up with the rest of the battalion, with B Company and C Company. And we were in a huge open field, and we formed a battalion perimeter. And we dug in and dug pretty good size foxholes with the overhead shelter. And that night, Campbell and I were sitting in the foxhole together, and he was telling me that he said he had been sent to the Dominican Republic, and he was issued a combat medic's badge. And one of the reasons for him to, because he was already out of the military, and then he came back in. And one of the reasons for volunteering to go to Vietnam was so he could feel that he really earned that combat medic's badge. And I told him, I said, Doc, yeah, I think you really earned it. No question about it. You can be proud of wearing that badge now. Well, the next day, the B Company pulled out to go on patrol, and they walked right into another VC base camp, and there was big firefight, and they were hurting for ammo and magazines. So everybody in the A Company and C Company had to give up one magazine. They had sent people around to collect them and then haul them out to B Company, so they had plenty of ammo. And then Campbell was getting really nervous because he was listening on the radio with me, that they're bringing the wounded back. So he told my platoon leader and our platoon sergeant that it might be a good idea for him to go up to the company CP and see if he could help out. So he started to walk away, and I remember Sergeant Mack saying, hey, make sure you come back. And I remember I can still see him right to this day. I can see him turn around and say, I'll be back. And that afternoon, he and Ken Ripka went out to help the guys in B Company, and that's where Campbell was killed.